I'm a champion of women.
Mm,
I champion women to become the best version of themselves. We
wow.
self-sabotage so much, and a lot of times we do it and don't even know that we're doing it, and we live in this cycle, this feedback loop,
Mm,
and sometimes people don't know how to get out of it, and they don't even know sometimes that they're in it.
yeah, yeah.
Really help women just identify that, become more self-aware. I can't give you the desire to want to make change and transform, but
Mm,
if you show up and you say, yes, I think I need some help in this area, or I think I need to, look at some things inside. I don't know where to start and what to do, but I think I'm ready. That is the woman that I want to work with.
Elevate with Monique. Elevate. Elevate with Monique. Elevate.
Yo, what's up, you guys? It's your girl, Tree the LPC, and thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the Self-Aware and Up podcast. I have an amazing guest with me this week. I cannot wait to talk with her and hear more about her story. I was very intrigued when we first connected and I was doing some research on her because she is someone who enjoys working with and helping women. I love seeing women, elevating women, helping and promoting other women. So I am really, really amazed with what she does as a field and really being able to help other people. Her name is Monique McClure. She is a personal elevation strategist, and she is a change catalyst for helping women build confidence and empowering them to navigate through life, taking care of themselves and pouring love into themselves. She is the owner of Elect Elevation, and she is here today to share her story of how she became this change agent for helping women and empowering them to prosper in their lives. So, without further ado, please welcome to the Self-Aware and Up podcast, Monique McClure. Hey, Monique, how are you doing today?
I am well, Tree. How are you?
I am doing well. Girl, I am so excited to talk to you. Like, I love what you do, and I want to learn more about you. So I can't wait for the audience to learn a little bit more about what you do and why you do what you do. So go
Mhm.
ahead and let's just go ahead and dive in and tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Okay. So as you mentioned, Monique McClure, I am from Charlotte, North Carolina, by way of Houston, Texas. So I
Okay.
literally have spent half of my life in both of those places. And right now I'm in Houston, but mom of three.
Mm,
And I am, as you mentioned, a personal elevation strategist. I coined that. So essentially, I'm a licensed life coach.
okay.
But life coaching, it's everybody's a life coach. So I'm like, let me just differentiate. And really, it is a differentiation because personal elevation strategist really encourages women to think outside of the norm, and let's come up with strategies that are custom for you, custom built for you. We are not all the same, and we are all different. So we need
Mm,
strategy. Fundamental, they may be the same, but there may be some differences in the way in which they carry them out, or the things that they do. So that is the overall, the big picture of who I am and what I do. But I think if I had to dumb it down, I'm a champion of women.
mm,
I champion women to become the best version of themselves. We
wow.
self-sabotage so much, and a lot of times we do it and don't even know that we're doing it, and we live in this cycle, this feedback loop,
Mm,
and sometimes people don't know how to get out of it, and they don't even know sometimes that they're in it.
yeah, yeah.
Really help women just identify that, become more self-aware. I can't give you the desire to want to make change and transform, but
Mm,
if you show up and you say, yes, I think I need some help in this area, or I think I need to, look at some things inside. I don't know where to start and what to do, but I think I'm ready. That is the woman that I want to work with.
I love that. I love what you do. I love that it's personalized because, so many, and not to speak ill of life coaches, but there are a lot out there that just do this kind of cookie cutter thing and everything does not apply. That means I could say the same for therapists. Like there are some that just do the same thing with everyone. And I love that you are a champion of women. I love that language that you use because it's so important, because we need that. I feel like so often women are pitted against each other. And so that is just really, really refreshing to kind of hear your take and how you kind of are seeking to change that and help women love themselves more.
Yeah.
Why this field? What's your why behind why you do what you do?
This is the loaded question. And I'm literally like, my eyes are tearing up because um, this was not something that I was like, oh, I'm going to go out and be a life coach and I'm going to help change women's lives. And the funny part about it is I was bullied as a child, as a young girl. I suffered from a lot of trauma just from my mom not being in my life.
Mm,
A lot of different things, we all go through something that could be considered traumatic, right? And
right.
so as I went through just my childhood and young adult stage, I always found myself being amongst the mean girls. And for whatever reason, they didn't like me, or, it just was something there, right? And
Mm,
so as I got older and I started to realize a lot of the things that I was doing and how I was operating in myself were projected onto me. They were things that people said I was, or people said I couldn't do, or whatever the case may be. And as I started to peel back different layers of my own trauma, my own
mm,
hurt and just disappointment, setbacks, whatever you want to call them, God started depositing little seeds into me. People would come to me, ask questions, advice,
mm,
and I didn't think of anything about it. But as He continued to tell me, like, this is the direction I want you to go in, I'm literally like trying to go this way. I'm like, but God, I want to do this. I wanted to act. I wanted to be a model. I wanted to
mm,
do all these other things. And literally, it was almost as if this thing would just haunt me. Like, I would try to forget about being this person, or not being this person, but building something that would help the masses, right? I tried
mm,
to run from it. And then finally I was just like, you know what, God, I surrender. And what He told me is that there are so many women out there that have journeyed through some of the very same things that I have. And a lot of people that are mean girl status, they're really not mean girls. They
mm.
just have things that they are uh in a lot of cases, I'm not going to say everybody,
Okay.
in a lot of cases, they have the very same thing I had. They have trauma, they have
Mm,
hurt, they have pain. They've masked it with a smile, they've masked it with makeup. They've done things to operate from this perception that's not reality. And so
right.
I just finally was like, okay, Lord, what are we doing? What are we doing? And the other thing that really is the why for me is I took the pressure off. Like, I can't help everybody. I can't
Right.
be Captain Saver, you know what? And I'm not calling anybody a hoe, but I'm just saying I can't save the world, right? I'm an
Right.
empath by nature, so I want to help people. I want people to, to feel good and to be happy and all these things. But when I took the pressure off and said, you know what? I'm going to attract the very person, the right person who I am supposed to attract. Everybody else, it doesn't mean that they're bad. It doesn't mean that they're, whatever. It doesn't mean anything negative. It just means that maybe I wasn't for them. And so that
Right.
helps me to be able to really operate authentically and from a place of my heart, not so much just going, trying to do the next best thing.
Yeah. Wow. See, you said that question was loaded, but I feel like just kind of I learned so much about you in that question, in terms of like things that I feel like so many people connect with, the story of being bullied and having to deal with mean girls. Like, I feel like that's a lot of women's story, and not everybody overcomes that. And definitely not everybody takes something that they experience and turns it into something that's able to help others. So I think that that's very admirable that you were able to do that. But then, fighting against your desire and yielding to God's will, I'm assuming that that wasn't an easy choice because you had your big plans, but sometimes his plans are bigger. And so I love acknowledging that and really being able to pour into other people from what God is giving you. So I love that part of your story just personally. But
Thank you. Thank you.
yeah.
I started exploring my birth chart
Mm,
and just trying to just, figure out what makes me me.
mm,
And a lot of what I'm exploring, I'm only scratching the surface so far as it relates to my birth chart specifically, is that it is innately in me to want to help people, like
mm,
on any level. You could have a party at your house and invite me, and I'm gonna probably find myself to my way into your kitchen and like start cleaning up or
mm,
try to help make it easier for you. It's just naturally what I do. And so I'm humbled that God would trust me with all of the hurt and the trauma and the pain that I've gone through to help other women heal from theirs. I'm actually humbled.
mm. Wow. Wow. Yeah, the work that you do is difficult in that we like you said it earlier, like there's so many negative kind of core beliefs that we have that have been projected onto us. And I see it so much day to day in terms of women still carrying a narrative about something someone said to them in the sixth grade, and that is who they identify themselves as. And so when you said that, I was just like, oh my God, like I'm glad that you called that out because so many of us own our projections. We own what other people tell us about ourselves
Yeah.
and we let that be our story. How do you work with women and help them kind of shift that from this is my story to no, I'm going to create and write my own story?
Yeah. I think it sounds simple, but if it was simple, everybody would do it. But it's
Mm,
really challenging the thoughts. It's challenging what that voice inside of you is saying to you. So, for instance, for me, one of the things as I was growing up, I was always compared, and bless my great aunt's heart, she didn't know any better, but she was one of my main caregivers. She didn't know that she was doing it because she wanted me to be the best, that I could be. She was educator and all these things, but she would compare me a lot to like peers and
mm,
people at church, people who came from two family background, two parent backgrounds. And so I grew up thinking that I was never enough.
mm,
Like everything that I did was always not good enough. So that was the story I told myself. I'm not good
mm,
enough. I'm probably never gonna go past this, this ceiling, and that's what it is. When I started challenging those thoughts and asking myself, like my true self, and I didn't know her yet, but I was just asking, I was curious. And that's the first thing that I tell women. You got to get curious about who you are.
mm,
And in your curiosity, I just made a little recording this morning. It's literally like you got to take the ego. This is the ego.
mhm,
Okay. You got to take the ego and say, ego, I'm going to sit you right here. Because as you get curious about yourself, the ego is going to keep trying to tell you, no, that's really who you are.
mm,
Right. But that's really not who you are. And so in your curiosity, you're asking yourself questions. Why do I feel this way? What happened in my life? Literally tracking events back to what happened to bring about this thought that I believe about myself. And
mm.
so I say it sounds simple because getting curious and asking questions, that is simple. Like we are naturally innately curious beings, right? And
Right.
we can ask all the questions in the world, but when you start asking questions about you,
Mm,
that's where I believe the rawness comes from. And that sometimes is a lot for people to like sit with and absorb and acknowledge.
yeah.
So, I just really help them get curious. I help them ask questions. I can't give them the answers to them, but I can offer the questions that make them think about it. And I'm a huge journaler. I probably have about 1,000 journals around my house. So I tell women, keep you a journal on hand, because as you are going through different processes and transformations and explorations, you are going to want to document the things that come up for you. You're
Yeah.
going to want to document where you are in your life right now, because I guarantee you, if you continue to do the work and stay in that state of curiosity, you're going to look back 6 months from now, a year from now, and be like, oh my gosh,
Okay.
that was me. That is not me anymore, right?
Yeah.
And that's beauty in seeing the transformation, because we don't see it on a day-to-day basis. I tell women, you have to give yourself grace and be patient with yourself. You didn't build this narrative overnight. It was years upon years of this, cycle happening. So you got to be patient
Exactly.
as you're unpacking that and transforming and moving into another direction of your life.
Yeah. Wow, you said so much. Like there are so many, like there are just so many things in there. And I love the way that you kind of walk through it. I wanted to go back to something that really resonated with me about what you said. And it's kind of the what you heard and that feeling of not being enough, because that's a lot of people's stories. And you said your great aunt, and I was like, oh, okay. Because I was raised by my great grandmother and my great aunt. And when you said that, I was just like, wow, I see so much of my story that is like very similar to yours. And I
Yeah.
feel like my aunt and I are still kind of going back and forth at it, because she doesn't understand how the things that she said to me as a kid impacted me and carried itself with me. And she's like, you had a good life. And I'm like, but you don't understand what it was like to grow up without both of my parents in the household with me. And so I love that feeling of not being enough, because that is a story of so many of us that grow up
Yeah.
without our biological parents, of not feeling like you were enough because you weren't enough for them to stick around and you weren't
Yeah.
enough for them to be there. And so for anybody that's listening and that resonates with them, I think that is something definitely to dig into, because you are enough. And I think that that's a big part of what it sounds like you do, is help women find their enough and set the bar for what that looks like for them. So
Yeah.
that's just really powerful.
We're beyond enough, Tree.
Yeah.
We're beyond enough. And a lot of times, so I was thinking just recently about how nobody ever even told me that.
Mm,
Nobody ever told me that as a child. Nobody ever said, you are more than enough. There is nothing else that you need to do. You don't need to be anybody else. You're enough. And mm, that speaks to the little girl in me,
yes.
right? A little girl that I use the analogy. It's like, as we're going through our lives and we're moving from childhood to adulthood, sometimes we leave that child behind. For
Mm,
me, that child was standing like in the middle. If you imagine being in the middle of like a busy street or a sidewalk with people walking by, and she's standing there screaming and nobody sees her, nobody hears her, nobody's even paying attention to her. And so when I started to learn that I am enough, I was able to go back to her and tell her that she was always enough.
yeah.
And I feel like that's where that when I talk to you about that foundational work that we have to do, because self-love, that's cute. We all need it. Self-care, that's cute. We all need it. But you can't build a house on a shaky foundation. Our foundation is our inner child, our how do we grow up? What did we grow up believing? What did you experience as a child? And where did you leave that as you became an adult? And so I'm very, very passionate about helping women to travel back in order to go forward.
Yeah. And that can be scary for a lot of people to face that. I know that shadow work is a very popular thing in today's and I'll be honest, like I don't know how much of that I want to go back to. I've gone back enough, but I do think that that is something that we have to be able to face our past. We have to be able to do it, because our past shapes who we are.
Oh,
And a lot
yeah.
of times we're still living and operating in the past, even though that no longer serves us.
Yeah. The little girl, I see it in, so and not from a judgmental space. I'm very intuitive. And so I can walk into a space and I'm around people, but without me even trying, I can read the energy, not them per se. I may not know them, but I see a lot of women that walk around and operate from that little girl space. And
Yeah.
it is, you know, it's unfortunate, but it's real. And like you said, not everybody's even ready to go back. Sorry, I felt like something was crawling on my leg.
Okay, gotcha.
Not everybody wants to go back. Not
Right.
everybody knows how to go back. I wish I had a me when I started my journey, because I think I probably would have been a little bit more strategic in how I did it, because I beat myself up. Like while I was trying to figure stuff out, I'm like, oh, you're this and I'm still telling that to myself.
Right.
But if I would have had someone like me that said, be gracious with yourself, have compassion for yourself, that probably would have helped me in my journey just a little bit more. And so I want to give that to women.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I wish I had a me with that. I mean, that is so telling, because we all need someone to help guide us through this. And I think that, I love, people that can do it on their own. I couldn't do it on my own. I went through a lot of therapy to even get to where I am now in terms of my growth and my healing. And I think sometimes, women feel limited. Sometimes even, especially in our communities, sometimes people feel like, oh, well, I can't do that, or therapy isn't for me, life coaching isn't for me, because that's not how they were taught or how they were raised. So, but I love that there are more of us that are getting the help that we need.
Yes.
And that is so, just empowering. And it's really, really nice to be able to kind of see that. Have you seen a shift kind of in what you do, especially since COVID?
A shift in what do you mean? Like, have I seen a shift in
And more people coming and more people
oh
wanting
yeah.
to get help.
Well, so it's interesting because what I do requires a level of vulnerability that sometimes, you know, you got to some people, you got to warm up to it, right? So since COVID, I think people have started to realize, because they had to sit with themselves and be in the
Right.
house, all the things, they started to realize I don't really like myself. I don't like where I am in my life. Maybe they lost their job, and so now they're reevaluating those things. And so, yes, I saw a shift in the mindset. What's challenging is getting women to be vulnerable and real with someone else,
Yes.
right? I've done therapy. I love therapy. I'm actually looking for a therapist now, because I still feel like therapy is one of those things. It could be a defense, like something that you're doing because I need to get out of this, or it could be a preventative measure
Right.
to, have someone to talk to. And so I still love therapy, but getting women to be vulnerable and willing to open up to someone like that, sometimes it just takes time. It just takes time, connection, getting to know people. Women we are connection driven people by nature. We want to connect. We want to be around community. We want people that we can resonate with. And
Yeah.
so that is where I'm, more focused on just building more connections with women, because once they start to realize, oh, well, what she's talking about, yeah, I might need to explore that more, then we can start having the conversation. But remember, I told you I suffered from that mean girl thing. So sometimes I walk into a room and it's like, literally, I feel the energy of, I think it's just that, that thing when you don't know somebody, you don't know who they are, you judge them by what you see until you get to know them. And then you're like, oh, she's a pretty decent person. She's all
Yeah.
right. Yeah. So did that
No.
answer your question?
Yes, it did. I know, I'm laughing because like I get it. I don't like certain things when I'm walking into spaces. And I think so many times, like not even just women, I think just people when they walk into new spaces, a lot of times that social anxiety or them getting in their heads, thinking people are thinking about them, like that is just a whole thing that just comes up more times in a week than you can imagine. So it's just was funny. It kind of got me. Yeah. But
Yeah, as Brene Brown would say, the stories that we tell ourselves, right?
right.
Like we create this whole story in our head, and 9 times out of 10, it's like, girl, they are not even thinking about you.
At
Like
all.
they got 50 million things on their mind, and it's not you. It's
Right.
not you. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So I want to kind of shift gears a bit,
Okay.
and you've been very open, and I love that. But I want to know, this is something I ask everyone that comes on the show. I want to know how you personally connect or identify with the idea of being self-aware and fucked up.
Okay, so I grew up in a very religious background, and I grew up with this notion that you have to be perfect, right? I had to be perfect. If I wasn't perfect, I told you I didn't feel like I was good enough.
Mm,
And so as I started just going through my journey, I realized that I am very self-aware. I'm very self-aware of my short. I'm self-aware of my fucked upness.
okay.
And that may show up because, I still have that shadow. We all do. We all have that shadow, right? Like, so things that maybe I don't want people to know about, or maybe, I'm still working through, I'm a work in progress. So the self-awareness part is I'm a work in progress. I still
Okay.
have things that I need to work on. I still will always have things that I need to work on. And the fucked up part is like, part of the stuff I need to work on is fucked up. Like I have a bad attitude sometimes, and I know I need to work on that. I used to be really defensive a lot, and
Mm,
I had to understand like why am I being defensive all the time? Why when somebody say something to me, am I ready to, pop off at them? So that's the fucked up part about it. But I think I love the contrast that you've built here with self-aware, but self-aware and fucked up.
yeah.
And so that's, to me, that's what I would say, like the marriage of being self-aware, but still and embracing that. I embrace like I'm fucked up in some ways, not in
Yeah.
every way, but some ways I'm really, I'm fucked up, and that's okay. And I still love me. And that in itself was even a journey. Like being okay with all of the things that I don't feel like I measure up to, but still being able to love myself and still being
Mm,
able to say, but I celebrate you for this because girl, when we look back 5 years ago, that girl could never, like she could never be in your shoes today. So that's enough to celebrate. That's enough to be proud of. And yeah, we still got other things we need to work on, but hey, look at where we come from. So that's how I relate the two.
yeah. Wow. Oh, thank you for sharing that. Girl, I feel like we are living in two different, like the same life in two different dimensions. When I tell you about my defensiveness and how it almost ruined so many relationships for me, girl, that all right,
Yeah,
we're gonna have to do an episode on defensiveness because
it did
it's a
ruin a lot
beast.
of, yeah, it is a beast. It is.
Yeah,
It is. And it did ruin relationships for me.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
A lot
tough.
of relationships.
Yeah, but it's hard to even realize that because I think just because of some of the similar dynamics that we share growing up, because of the whole idea of having to be perfect, you
Yeah.
feel like anything is like a nitpicking, and so you do feel like even if somebody say, "Oh, you need to tie your shoe," why are you telling me I got to tie my shoe? Like it's just the natural response because we've
Yeah.
had to protect ourselves for so long, but it takes a lot to unlearn defensiveness, and so I really appreciate you highlighting that because it's real. And a lot of us don't even realize we're doing it because we've done it for so long.
Yeah, and you just said something that's exactly what it was for me. It was a protective mechanism. I developed this defensive mindset and behavior because it protected me from the things that may have been coming at me. That was my and so that's the other thing that I feel like people don't understand is it's okay to recognize your fucked upness, right?
Mhm.
Give gratitude to those things because those things served purpose too. That
Right.
defensive mechanism served purpose for me, right? Being I mean, oh my gosh, where do I even start? Like a lot of the things that I used as a shield for me, they were they served a purpose in that space in my life, but they no longer serve those purposes. They aren't serving me at all. So now I got to take inventory. What's not serving anymore?
Yeah.
We got to get rid of that. And it may take time to unravel and get rid of it, but at least I know my mind and my eye is on that thing because that's not serving me anymore. Well, what's now serving me? Okay, well, I don't know how to get there, but that's what I'm focused on now. So I'm gonna attract things, people, experiences, situations that's going to get me closer to that thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I love the way that you broke that down. And I think that a lot of times all need to examine, is this serving me? Not even just with that, but just with anything in our lives or whatever, is like, how is it serving me? Because if it's not, then change needs to be made. And as a change catalyst, I'm sure you're very familiar with that. But yeah.
definitely. I think people stay in a season and a place too long
Mm.
and they don't know how to identify that the season is up, sis. It's time to let it go.
Yeah.
It served you, give gratitude to it, but it's time to let it go.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And people are afraid of change. And that's that ego that I talked about, right?
Mhm.
The ego does not want change. It doesn't want disruption. It doesn't want things that take it out of its comfort zone because that's where it has control.
Right.
Anytime you disrupt that, you are going to disrupt the ego. And a lot of people operate from ego. And so who wants that? Who wants to be disrupted when that's the place that I operate from versus saying, you know what? I need to find my higher self. And I know people don't talk like this in real life, but this is conceptually what it is. It's like, what does my higher self want? What is that? Because ego is not going to track me there, but I need to be able to tell the difference between the two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, that was a word. For sure, for sure. But Monique, I so appreciate your time today. This has actually been a really, really dope conversation. I knew it was going to be once I saw your page and visited your website. So, can you go ahead and let the people know, how can they connect with you if they want to work with you, if they want to connect in any type of way? How can they reach out to you?
Yep. So they can reach out info@electelevation.com. That is the email. I'm also on social media. So Elect Elevation is across all of the platforms. They can DM me. They can, send me. They can even go over to www.electelevation.com and click on the Contact Us page and send a message, their information, and we can reach out that way. So several different ways that you can reach out. I mean, I'm all over social media, so
Okay.
Elect Elevation.
electelevation.com. So make sure you guys check out Monique, visit her website, connect with her. Her information will be in the description of this episode. Make sure that you guys also connect with me, Tree the LPC, on all social media platforms under the handle Tree the LPC. Until next time, be safe, be well, and make sure that you take care of your mental health.
Always, sis. Thanks so much for tuning in. And if you like this video, do me a favor and hit the like and subscribe button. And if you don't want to miss out on any of my latest content as it's being released, go ahead and hit the notification bell icon as well. Thanks for joining, and I'll see you next time.